Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Coach AJ, and I'll be your moderator for today in an incredible event focused on finding your voice by the powerful legacy of Dr. Herb Carnegie and the Future ACES Foundation. Before we go ahead and we dive in, I want to give a special thanks to all the students and the educators, and of course, our special guests that have arrived here this afternoon. I just want to make this clear. This event is about you, helping you build leadership skills, boost your self esteem, and empower you to take positive action in your life, your school, and of course, your community. Now, let me tell you a little bit about behind Future ACES movement and Dr. Herb Carnegie. Born in 1919 to Jamaican parents, Dr. Carney grew up in Toronto and fell in love with hockey at a young age. He became an incredible, skilled hockey player, but despite his talent, he was denied a place in the NHL simply because he was black. Instead of giving up, he co-founded the first all-black professional hockey line and with his brother Ozzy and Manny McIntyre, breaking barriers and making history. After retiring from hockey, he channeled his passion into making a difference. He became a successful businessman and started the Future ACES Foundation, built to empower youth with values like respect, confidence, and responsibility. Dr. Carnegie also created the Future Foundations back in 1956, a philosophy built around 12 core values that help people become the best version of themselves. The acronym FUTURE stands for Always Striving. ACE means being the best you can be, and it emphasizes four pillars: attitude, cooperation, example, and sportsmanship. Today, the same creed reaches over 100,000 students a year in Ontario and has helped build stronger relationships between schools, communities, and even the local police. And that's why we're here, to keep that mission alive and thriving. I also want to just say super quick that Future Aces came to my school when I was in elementary school, 19 something, I'm not gonna say what year, but they handed out these creeds. I apologize for the blurry. You can see it, but you probably can't. They hand out these creeds, and I'm now 30s, almost 37, and I still have mine. So that kind of shows you the power of Future Aces and what it means. And it's also an honor to be here to give back to an organization that gave to me at a very young age. So let's start with our first session, a powerful conversation I'm having with someone who's been an inspiration to many, including myself. Please join me in welcoming our first guest, the fireside to a fireside chat, Anthony Liu. Anthony, how are you doing?
I am doing extremely well today. How you doing, Coach AJ?
I am doing well. I'm very excited for this event to speak with all of you and to leave some really nice gems for those who are paying homage to Dr. Carnegie and being here today. So let's talk a little bit about Anthony for a moment there. Anthony's
Let's do it.
story is one of a resilience, reinvention, and power. From an unfortunate situation to triumph, he's lived the journey of finding his voice and turning it into a purpose and leadership. We're going to talk a little bit about life experiences, challenges, and how leadership starts within. So, Anthony, I got a couple questions here for you.
All
Can
right.
you share how you found the strength to redefine your purpose after such a pivotal moment?
Well, it was a super pivotal moment, breaking my back and becoming a paraplegic after being one of the best athletes in the hurdles in all of Canada. For my age, it was extremely humbling. I didn't know what to do or where to go, but um, I was very fortunate. I had an amazing support system and family that raised me the right way, and my mother was always kind of right there. So when it all happened, I kind of fell back on my faith and just everything that I had grown up on. So I was very fortunate in that aspect. But after that, it was one of these things where it was like I had to rebuild myself and figure out, where am I going next? What do I do? How do I live? Right. And it was one of these things where I had to look inwards and try to figure out who I was as a person and where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And in the beginning, there were so many things that I just started to see and pick up on that I'm kind of like, all right, this is gonna be your kind of sword that you fall on. You have to try and make things better for everybody else around you and those coming up after you. So that's kind of where my strength came from. It was kind of one of those things where it's like I try not to focus on my exact situation and just focus on what I could do to make it better and help others while doing that as well too. So
Thank you for sharing that. There's two things that you mentioned there that really stuck out to me, and I'm sure to others, is pivoting and being the person that's kind of bridging the gap in between those that are after us and those that are ahead of us, and how important it is to be that pillar sometimes in our community, to be part of that bridge. And we all have our own spot that how we could bridge the gap sometimes, or we can learn from those that are ahead of us, and we can also gain and provide for those that are coming up behind us. But pivoting is a massive one because you have to always pivot in life no matter where you are. And it becomes more of how can I pivot? What can I do differently? And shifting and adjusting. So thank you for saying that. You've also mentioned and spoken about failing forward and making tough decisions, like stepping back from the Paralympic dreams to focus on broader advocacy. What does failing forward mean to you, and how can students apply this mindset?
So that's a great question because when you say failing forward, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, what do you really mean? And why are we even saying failing forward? Failure is one of those words that a lot of people fear, but I am a firm believer that, there's a lot of times in life where we're just not going to hit our goals. We're not going to win. We're not going to hit a A on that test, whatever it is, but it's not necessarily a failure. I look at it as like a teaching moment and a moment for growth, right? It's one of those things where you just keep going. And like I said, you're never going to be absolutely perfect. Nobody's perfect. So we have to take those experiences where we don't necessarily get what we want or how the outcome turns out and learn from it. Really and truly figure out how to become a better person at the end of the day so that when this situation comes up next time, you're better prepared for it. And then you're able to go on and conquer and feel that much better at the end of the day because it's I've been there and I've done it, just seeing what I did wrong, correcting it, and then going and knocking it out of the park is one of the best feelings ever because you did it. You accomplished something that you didn't necessarily do well at the first time. So it's one of those things where it's kind of never giving up on yourself.
Thank you for that. 1000% agree. I used to fear failure until I realized that, believe it or not, failure is fuel in many ways. And you could take a lot of great lessons from when you make mistakes, and how you could push it and even make you propel even further than you ever could imagine. So definitely, yeah, don't fear failure. Don't see it as a such a massive roadblock. It's just part of the path, and you're just gonna learn from it and take the gems and push forward. Thank you for that. For the students facing their own challenges, what strategies have you found effective in maintaining inspiration and resilience?
Wow, there's so many. And with everything that we have at our fingertips today, I think that you really have to put some of the onus on yourself to learn and grow and develop. So there has been so many things. Growing up, I never thought I was really a great student because I was the athlete. I thought I was a jock. I perhaps played into some of these perceptions and roles, but I discovered later that I learn a little bit differently than others. And when sorry, my phone's ringing there. When I got to college and automotive apprenticeship, it was like I was locked in. When I found out that there was something that I enjoyed and I loved, it was like, I'm good to go. So this is where I kind of like locked in and found my joy and kind of stuff like that. But it was one of these things. Sorry, can we just go back to the question again? I got lost in my rant there.
Nah, you're good. For the students facing their own challenges, what strategies have you found effective in
Yeah,
maintaining inspiration and resilience?
that's where I was going with it. It was learning. I never thought I was a good learning, but so when I had to go through the challenge and figure out how to get through it, I was like, what makes me a better person? How do I deal with this? Who has been through this already? Who can help me get through this so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel? There were so many people that had spinal cord injuries before me, and they were like, hey, do this or don't do that or whatever it may be. And that really helped me to get going at first and move forward. The second thing that I really did was figure out how I needed to learn because reading wasn't my thing. I loved video. So YouTube became huge, whether it was how-to videos on whether it's cooking or taking apart my wheelchair and stuff like that. But then came the inspiration, the talkers, the leaders, people like Tony Robbins or David Goggins. There's so many people that have been through adversity in their life that I started really locking in on their stories and resonating with that and seeing that no matter what situation these people went through, they found a way through and they've come out on the other side even better than they were before. So it was one of those things that it was like, okay, I'm on the right path here. And then personal development was the next huge thing. Figuring out who I am as a person and being like, figuring out my foundations, trying to make myself strong in who I am and what I believe so that when situations, trials, or tribulations come and they try and throw you off your base, I'm firm in what I believe and who I am. So it was one of those things where personality tests, um, speaking to other people that are smarter than me, business owners, advocates, everybody. I love speaking and just getting knowledge from all sorts of people in different walks of life because I think that just makes you that much more well-rounded of a person, when you have that wealth of knowledge from different perspectives and backgrounds and stuff like that. So that was definitely one of the things that, or a couple of the things that really helped me to get going to the point to where I'm at today and just continually trying to be a better person every day.
Thank you, and 1000% agree. It takes one step a day, just 1% a day, versus overwhelming yourself. And it also takes meeting yourself where you are at, in any chapter you're at. You mentioned how you thought you were as a student, and I can relate to that so much growing up. Certain subjects and certain things that I was not great at in school, I thought I would never be great at as an adult. For example, reading. I was not a fan of reading books until someone introduced audiobooks to me. And now, greatest blessing. For those who don't know, if you have a library card, the Libby app is free. Just putting that out there. You can listen to audiobooks for free. And that has opened up a massive door for me where I'm now reading 1 to 2 books a month at times, but books that I actually enjoy, such as personal development, self-improvement, and ways that I can level up in my own life depending on where I am. So I love the fact that you mentioned meeting ourselves where we're at in terms of even education as adults is important because maybe when we were younger as teenagers, we didn't really think it would fit, but there's other ways that you can learn, like you mentioned YouTube, which is a great tool as well.
Yeah, you can never really stop learning.
You
You
can
know,
it does not stop. It does not stop at all.
doesn't
Um,
matter how old you are. I went to school with someone and I was in their 70s.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is that is
Yeah.
amazing. Shout out to her for real. 70s, like that's a massive. Whew, that's good. I don't know about 70, but that's good.
No, I don't know.
I'm not too sure about that,
But
but
it's
hey,
like
good for her
it
though,
was
for real.
amazing. And
Um,
yeah.
Community plays a significant role in personal growth. How did your community support you discover during your recovery, and how can students build supportive networks and to others?
Community's everything. I never really realized growing up how much community meant to me until I broke my back. And then I kind of lost my community or my network, some of my really, 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 really good friends. And it was kind of like, well, where do I go now? What do I do? And who do I kind of relate with? Who do I look like? Where do I fall into place? And so it was discovery all over again at the age of 21. And as I mentioned, my family was amazing from the get-go. So that was kind of like my first community that really helped me to get back out into the larger community, society. And that's when I found the wheelchair community. Um, it's been absolutely amazing to learn about a segment of the population I knew nothing about. And now it is my daily life, not only because I'm a wheelchair user, but just learn to become a great advocate, seeing all the gaps within society when it comes to accessibility and bias and stigma surrounding wheelchairs and people with disabilities. It's just been one of those things where uh, we need to do better, and so that's why I love community so much because now I'm able to I guess just because of who I am, get out and meet new people in different networks and areas through whether it's my speaking or my business consultations. I meet so many different people and so many different communities, and to get in there and be able to advocate for people with disabilities and accessibility is amazing. And for the students out there, I'd say networking. So like getting out, meeting new people, volunteering at different organizations to get a different perspective on life and what's going on in the real world will set you up for so many more things down the road in life, because you will have an open mind and you'll have experiences that will allow you to think differently than others that just kind of said, I want to stay inside and play video games. So get out there, volunteer, network, build that community. Yeah.
Thank you. And kind of thinking back, Future Ace is very much heavily imprinted in my head at a very young age when they attended my schools multiple times about how important community really is and to give back to the community and be a member of community.
Yes.
And as now as an adult, I find myself still doing the exact same thing. It makes you, it helps make you a very well-rounded person when you give back and you show up for others, and they will show up for you as well. As you said, you found yourself being welcome in a different community that you knew nothing about, and once you got to know that community even more, not just because you were a person that identifies in that community, but primarily because you were way, okay, now I want to advocate for that same community and somehow give back in my own way. So, if for the students out there, community is so important no matter what age you are. It helps you, but it also helps build you in many ways and makes you, as I said, a well-rounded person to face a lot of things in life that will come up. So thank you for that. And we're now going to just open up the conversation a bit more to our other panelists. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce them. So first, I'm going to start off with the with Kezna Dalz, the multidiscipline artist. Gotta give, I love art. Can't draw to save my life, but shout out to her for real. Also introduced Rose Chen, a clinical counselor, and Divya Day, who is also a Future Ace alumni and student activist. Just want to open up. You guys could wave, just say hi. There we go. Get a little wave there, right? So we're going to open up the conversation with the rest of our panelists. I'll be asking a few questions and giving each of our guests time to share their insights and experiences. These questions are designed to help you think about your own voice and purpose and how to rise after setbacks. So the first question I have, and I guess I'll start with Rose. Many people struggle to build after setbacks. What advice would you give someone who feels knocked down by life?
Well, that's actually a very good question, Coach AD, especially when I work in mental health. I actually worked with teenagers too before I became a clinical counselor. I joke that they gave me my training before I even went into my program. I think the thing about setbacks is not being afraid to actually just sit. Like, people believe you got to get back up, you got to get back at it. You know what? It's okay. Sometimes if you have a setback, we don't have to just bounce back. Just sit, take a moment, look around, recognize you're not alone. And if you do really even struggle, like use get empowered by the people around you. Like I always, when I work with my patients, always tell them, when you're feeling you're struggling and you don't just have like anything in you to believe in yourself, that's okay. I'm like, don't believe in yourself. Believe in the people that believe in you because they can't all be wrong. And so that's the one thing I tell people like, hey, use the strength, take a break. It's okay to take a moment, reevaluate the setback, figure out what you want. And then when you feel like you have enough energy, then we get back up and we take a few more steps.
Awesome. I like the fact that you said you can sit for a while. I think that we think automatically we have to just get right back at it, but also give yourself some grace. And then grace means understanding that you've maybe made a mistake and life is happening, and it's okay to take a pause. It's totally fine to take a pause. Kazan, would you like to add anything to that? I'll just reiterate the question again. Many people struggle to build after setbacks. What advice would you give someone who feels knocked down by life?
Honestly, I feel the same as Rose. Like it's really so important to take a break and to give yourself time. And I think something that can help too while you're taking a break is trying something new, just something you've never done before. I think it can feed you so much and just like kind of give you a new perspective on things, and then you can come back recharged and with different views on whatever you were working on and try other things as well. Kind of get to know yourself as well, even more.
Thank you. I like the fact that you also said get to know yourself like in a different chapter possibly. You're meeting yourself where you are at that moment. Divya Day, anything you'd like to add to that?
That's actually so funny because I think when everyone was talking, I was like, I've literally thought the exact same thing, kind of getting ready for that question as well. Kind because I was afraid. I was like, okay, I wouldn't necessarily like jump back altogether. I think for personally for me, taking a few deep breaths really helped like initially when it's really stressful like there's a lot going on. Even when I'm heading into like a big meeting, my friends will be like, take 3 breaths before jumping in. And I'm like, that's so true. Take a deep breath in through your nose, count 3 seconds out through your mouth. Like just really helps. Just kind of calm your heart down, calm everything, get a clear mind. And then I really like reflecting and kind of like looking at the situation, being like, okay, so what exactly happened? Why am I feeling this way? Asking the questions that we try to avoid sometimes because they're hard, they're uncomfortable. But by kind of thinking about those questions and addressing them personally when your mind is clear, when you're feeling a little better, can kind of help you figure out how to get back up as well. So taking that moment to yourself, reevaluating, and then slowly figuring out the answers to the questions that you don't want to ask.
Nah, I like that. It's like you're setting yourself up for that comeback, right? Because even though we have a setback, the one thing about setbacks is you always can make a comeback from that. And reevaluating where you are and reflecting is important. But what I love what you said, which is something I even did before this, and I do it at almost every event that I have, is I put my hand over my heart and I take 3 deep breaths. As much as I'm a speaker, I still get nervous. I'm sure many of us could attest to that. Uh, so I always put my hand over my heart and I kind of just talk to myself for a moment in a positive light. And I take 3 deep breaths. I sometimes even envision my happy place, which is I close down my eyes and I envision a happy place of where I would like to be. Typically, it's an ocean with a beach, yeah, and some type of coconut or a mango in my hand. But that's, to be honest, I love coconut, and that just brings my heart from beating so fast to back level. Rose, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, a little bit of a physiological lesson here. The reason why the exhaling actually works when we're kind of getting all amped up is because when a sudden increase in CO2, so carbon dioxide is being released, it actually triggers the relaxation center of the brain. So for anybody out there, especially students, if you're actually struggling or you're getting kind of nervous about a test, we actually say, kind of exactly what Divya said. It was, focus on the exhale, because what happens is when the exhale is longer, it's actually triggering the relaxation center in your brain. And in the Asian culture, my mom used to always hate it when I had big sighs. Like at the end of the day, I'd be, and she's like, normally we only sigh when something bad happened, but it feels so good, right? So the reason why it feels so good is because there's a sudden increase in CO2. So the one take home is, for mental health, whenever you struggle or you're just needing that brain break, just having an extra long exhale. I have a 9-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter, but with my 9-year-old son, we just say, blow out the birthday candles. So when in doubt, pretend you're blowing out the birthday candles, and you'll find your heart rate's dropping because now your brain's not in fight or flight mode.
I like I'm glad you mentioned the sighing it out. I used to think it was kind of odd sighing it out because you sound odd when sighing it out. But then I realized, as you just said, how powerful that sighing it out actually really is. And if you do 3, by the second one, you're like, oh, okay, well, now I'm feeling. And as a person who has test anxiety, and I've had it since I was a preteen, it's the only thing that helps me till this day. So for those students out there, if you sometimes get, as she said, like super nervous about a test or exam in the future, even as an adult, I still take 3 deep breaths and sigh it out before I even write my name on the sheet of paper. It's a great tip there. Anthony, go ahead.
I just wanted to say to the students that I hope you guys are taking notes because there are so many gems being dropped here. It's just kind of like I just feel like a bobblehead. It's like I'm so happy, I'm so excited. It's even for like my own situations going on right now. I'm like, this is so good, and just to know and be like breathing, and yeah, no, this is great.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, our second question, let's talk a little bit about purpose. How did you discover yours? And what would you say to someone who's still searching? Anthony, I'm going to start with you because you're at the top of my screen. By all means, go ahead.
Yeah, so it was again. My purpose kind of fell in my lap, like literally. Once I broke my back, it was wheeling around, and then, like I said, seeing all the gaps within the industry and society, and I was like, why is this happening? My intersectionality as like a young black male in a wheelchair, people looked at me really differently now. And it was like, well, why do you look at me that way? And then it was again those perceptions of how I got in that wheelchair. And I was like, oh, you think I ended up in the chair this way when really it happened that way? And they're like, oh, okay. But so that was kind of one of the things, and education. It became all about education at that point because so many people just wrote me off. They're like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. And it was kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't necessarily want to prove to you that I can, but I just wanted to like educate and show you that people with disabilities can do this. And so that's how my purpose kind of just it fell in my lap. And I think it was one of those things that I was really and truly destined to be in and doing because um, people aren't supposed to live what I lived through. So I think it was one of God's ways of pushing me to where I needed to go.
Yeah, I one of the things that I've learned in my, I guess you could say, late 20s. I wish I knew this a bit earlier, is that your purpose is almost to just exist. There's a book I just recently read, which is called Ikigai. Great book. Audiobook is available on Libby app. Again, if you have a library card. It is free. I'm going to continue to publicize that because it's free. I like free things. And it kind of just talked about how by us being ourselves and just loving who we are as human beings, it connects us with our purpose. And a lot of the things that it's not so much that we're searching for it, it's more that it'll align with us. And it's the things that we like to do, whether it's a sport or you're a music fan or you like creating a video like a movie and or stuff like it just or artists. I'm definitely gonna come to you, cousin, right after, so be prepared. Uh, but it's just like those type of things that we love the most is where our purpose resides, because our purpose is just to exist and love and enrich other lives as well. So, Kezna, I'm gonna pop it over to you again. I'm just gonna re-say the questions one more time, just so everyone knows. Let's talk about our purpose and how did you discover yours, and what would you say to someone who's still searching?
Um, I feel like for me, it's quite specific because I do visual arts for a living and I always loved drawing. Like as a kid, I loved colors, I loved trying things, I loved getting my hands dirty. I would paint and draw all the time, and that's always been with me. But when I was studying, I actually went to CJEP and visual arts, and I didn't like the program at all. So I switched to political science-based program, and I did the same in university. And after that, I decided to go back to arts. And I think that sometimes your purpose just comes to you, like it's about knowing what you like. But if you're not sure what it is, I think my best advice would really be to try to discover like who you are as a person and what you like. So putting yourself out there, trying different things, talking to different groups of people as well. I know that sometimes it's hard to kind of like reach out to people, but you can learn so many things about yourself by who you're having conversations with as well, because then you can see like, oh, I like that topic, I didn't like that topic, oh, that person is doing something completely different than what I'm doing. So I think it's really nice to stay curious and be interested in others.
Thank you for that. I like the fact you mentioned community, and s- foundations like Future ACES do promote that a lot, and you figure out ways that you can work with other people and meet like-minded individuals which can align you to your purpose. And like you said, like it's trying new things. Sometimes you may think that it's just you're in your bubble of the things that all you can do, but the world is so big and there's so many things you can learn, and whether it's in school or just working within a community, your own community within where you live, that you can link your way and align your way to things that could advance and enhance your life in so many ways. So I'm gonna pop it off to Rose. You go ahead.
My answer is going to be a tiny bit longer on this one because it's such a big question. I'm kind of like a bit like Anthony. I kind of stumbled upon it. A little bit about my background is, my father immigrated went from China to Trinidad, and he came to Canada actually when he was 15 with his great uncle, who at the time he claimed was his father, so he could actually come to Canada. And so we grew up actually with no cousins. It was just the four of us. Like we actually had like no family. So the one thing I learned was building a community. Like, but we were always surrounded by like so many people, so much love, so much support. Because my dad had this like amazing personality where I remember we would be late. I would be late for piano lessons because he pulled over just to help a stranger like shovel snow so the other guy can get out, but then we'll be stuck and then we'll have to figure it out. And then I started working with youth. And then when I worked with youth, that was, I think, a big pivotal moment in my life before I became a therapist, because it was like, wow, I can build a community with these kids. And helping them find their purpose is like helping me find my purpose. And from working with them, I realized, you know what, I really feel like I was a makeshift therapist with all the all the stories I had to deal with after school. And then I became a clinical counselor. And a little bit about my background is I actually worked in a hospital for 10 years in psychiatry just to get my training, seeing all these different cases. And my kids and my husband actually know that I finally was able to land my dream job, which I'm doing now. I work in a trauma specialized clinic, and we actually specifically only work with the Canadian military veterans and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, specifically with their trauma treatment. And that was my dream job. And that's like following like one step at a time, kind of realizing my purpose, building community with kids, and like, hey, where do I want to go from there? I have a bachelor's degree in kinesiologist as a kinesiologist, nothing to do with therapy. But then from that, I realized from working with kids, like I love this counseling stuff. And I went through that. And then I'm like, you know what? And then my kids are like, Mommy, why do you do such a hard job? Like, why don't you work with like old people? Nothing wrong with old people. I'm getting there myself. Like just why don't you work with old people? Like, why do you have to observe all this trauma? Because you hear about all their stories, all the stuff that they go through. And one thing I'll tell the youth is, you know what, discover your superpower. That's what I tell my kids. I'm like, you know what, Mommy's superpower, I am not a ninja. I am no like Asian ninja. If there's something happening, I'm not going to be able to like wushu my anyone's butt or anything. I'm going to run. I'm like, but Mommy's superpower is up here. I'm like, what I can do is I can help people reprogram their brains. I'm like, and Mommy's dream job is this job because you don't realize what they give up to keep us safe. So what Mommy wants to do is everything I can to help those people that actually keep us safe every day. So discover your own superpower and don't be afraid to just take one step at a time.
The superpower comment, I disagree. You are definitely a ninja. Cause I'm gonna tell you why. It does take a lot to do what you do, and I could probably say on behalf of all of us, we thank you for the work that you are doing to help those that are on our front lines. Definitely. Uh, I agree with yours so much because I at a young age, music was everything to me, and I have a background in the film and music industry. In fact, I worked in film for 5 years and I worked in the music industry for 5 years until I, in a sense, I guess, outgrew it, and it just wasn't really something I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was very much similar to you, was help other people live and love their life the best way they can, which is very similar to Future ACES. The mission I have is to help one person a day, and that's literally the most simplistic way I could put it. If I get to help more, then that's great. And I realized how much more fulfilling it is for me to do that than to market a movie, to be honest. Movies are great, but it's far more fulfilling for me to help a person realize and also just like recognize who they are and honor themselves and live their authentic life. To me, that almost pays in itself. So I definitely agree with you with that, like how you went to have a bachelor's in kinesiology and we're neither of us are using it, but we're living our purpose and and we're helping people, which I think is amazing. So Divya Day, would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Um, where is it? No, I lost the question. I apologize. Oh, how did you discover your purpose, and what would you like to say to someone who's still searching?
So it was actually super hard to go after everyone's responses because they were so great. I was sitting here, I'm like, wow, like I'm learning so much through this. But I think for mine, it'll be more on like the latter side because I remember just kind of growing up and my dad would always ask me, like, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? And I would always reply with, I don't know. And essentially it was really, I don't know. And he always thought that I always knew what was going on in the background. I always knew what I wanted to do. When it came to grade 12 and I'm about to graduate, my dad asked me one more time. He's like, what do you want to do? And I responded with, I don't know. And he's like, oh, wait, she actually means I don't know. And, and I sat there and I was like, okay, I have like what, 10 months time to try to figure out what my next steps are going to be. And I knew I had a lot of things that I liked, but I never necessarily saw them as an avenue that I can make a career out of, or it could become like, my purpose essentially. So I on the side used to really like doing international development and humanitarian work alongside with like environmental stewardship, which means essentially like helping the environment, I used to be like an eco ambassador, helping like properly educate about composting and recycling while also trying to raise money in a bake sale to help those abroad. And that's the kind of stuff I grew up, but it wasn't necessarily like a school subject. So then when I was sitting here and I was like, okay, now I have to go into a school subject, but those weren't essentially my passions. I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I sat there on the university, I think, higher education portal that I think high schoolers have in grade 12, and I opened through every single program that they could potentially offer. I'm like, what is out there? What can I potentially like find what I really like? And then I realized I could do international development studies with an environmental science degree um, that I didn't even think possible because it wasn't necessarily taught as a subject in school. And as soon as I found that program, I was like, okay, this speaks to me. This is who I am. I I'm very passionate about the environment. My background comes from a background where there's a lot of flood prone, a lot of poverty, and I want to make a difference in this space. And immediately when I found that program, I was able to find, and then going into idea of community, finding the different student communities that exist. So finding the environmental community, finding the student activist community, finding the student council communities. All these little communities came in the way and kind of formed the leader that I am today. But essentially, it's still evolving at the same time. You heard the previous bachelors that are not in final careers. But again, I'm still trying to figure out a way where I could still continue to combine the different layers that I have into kind of this final end product. What will that look like? What can that be? And essentially, it's the decision-making prospect for me from starting off from none of the school subjects make sense to okay, now I want to be in decision making has just kind of evolved in that kind of way. So I guess my advice would be if you feel like what you want to do or your purpose might not seem traditional and quote unquote, don't be afraid to kind of tap into that and see how that joy could be something long lasting.
Love that. I like the fact that you've layered it. It's almost like a layer of cake that you're building as you go along. Anthony, you have your hand up there. Go ahead.
I was just listening to everybody, and one thing that resonated with me is that everybody said they wanted to help somebody. And there's this one quote, and I wrote it down earlier, and it's when you help people get what they want, you get what you want. And it was, I've always kind of like looked at that. I'm like, well, it's a win-win situation. So why not? Right. And everybody seems like amazing leaders on this call. And it's one of, again, I just feel so blessed to be a part of this panel. And, things are just going in the right direction. And just, again, taking all these little gems and I should be typing, but trying to pay attention here. So see,
Divya has pen and
right?
paper
Yeah,
out.
it'll be recorded, so I'll watch it back again, play for my niece and nephew. So this is great. No, super happy to be here.
No, that's awesome there. If we could speak a little bit about high school, your high school self. I gotta go find mine. Give me a minute. It's been years. What would you say about finding your voice? I'm gonna go first. So, if I had to say anything about a high schooler that was looking to find her voice at that moment, I'm gonna do a little differently. I'm gonna place it as if I were to speak with her. Now being a person who is a speaker, which is very different. In high school, I didn't really talk to anyone, to be fair, and I was a very shy sort of kid in a way. Like I was very much to myself. And as I got older, I realized that that was in a sense like a weird protection, but it allowed me to preserve a bit of my energy so that I can be the speaker that could be in front of people and talk and do things like this. So if I could say anything to my high school self, I would say that your voice is needed and it matters more than you think. That sticks to me a bit because I don't think I thought my voice really mattered. But as I get older, I realize every voice matters more than we think because your voice could actually resonate for someone else who doesn't feel like their voice matters. And you could be speaking on their behalf, and then by you just speaking, they feel seen and they feel heard. Like, oh, I can resonate with that. Oh, I see where that person's coming from. So by just kind of stepping out of that fear a little bit, you're allowing your voice to be the forefront of who you are, and it allows you to step into being the best version of yourself. So I just want to start with that. Not sure if anyone wants to piggyback off of that, but I'll go to Divya. Go by all means. You go first.
I think for me, it's the going into sometimes maybe discomf discomf discomforting or new areas to try to see how I kind of react in those areas, in those situations. So, for example, maybe trying horseback riding, something very random. I love the outdoors, never done it before. Trying it is, does that really resonate with me or not? And it kind of is like this pro and con list, and not this pro and con list, but like this crossing off check mark where you're like, does this something that I want to do? Does this make sense? You either check mark it or like cross it off. And I think it helps you realize where your voice is heading towards. And I think there's just a bunch of random things that I've really tried just along the way. I like worked with kids at some point. I did a lot of youth activism, um, taught different sports, and then just very different things. And there's some things I would be like, I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is quite me. And I'd move somewhere else. And I think that really helped me find my little niche of this environmental international development space where this is the space where I know I could keep talking and I feel like I'm very passionate about it. And it really helped just really crossing the list, being like, yep, talking about numbers all day is not me, and pivoting into something else. So, yeah, that's just a little bit.
Nah, thank you for that. I like the checklist that we think that we constantly have to check things off, but sometimes it's a bit of flow, right? Let's just try to like figure out the flow of where we are. Kezna, how about you? If you could speak to your high school self, what would you say about finding your voice?
I think it goes along the lines of what Divya said and what you said as well. I think when I think of my high school self, I was holding so much. Like I was just like keeping to myself, but like kind of looking from the corner, like, oh, this thing looks cool. I wish I could try it, as if there was some sort of like a barrier that would like stop me from trying it. And I think that I mean, both my siblings work in high schools, and I hear about the activities that are available in these high schools, and I think there's something for everyone. And I think about my high school, and there were so many options that I would have loved to try, but I was just so anxious or scared or shy, or I thought it wouldn't look cool. And I think that it's an important reminder, like if it can be a daily thing, like you just literally like have a post-it before you step outside of your house to be like, do not be afraid to try this thing. I think it's such a great reminder because there are so many options, and that's how you get to like know yourself and discover what you like. So definitely to be less afraid and to try what's offered in these high schools because it's just like there's literally everything. There's something for everybody. So just to go for it and to not be afraid of judgment or to be embarrassed or whatever's holding you back.
Yeah, to touch base on that, yeah, you're right. There's so many programs that are available, and even now I look back, and I was a band kid. Yes, I played the trombone for many years, and I loved it. And I wish I took it a little bit further, a bit more seriously compared to what I was doing. And there's so much things I could have done within that circle of playing an instrument. So yeah, like I agree with you. There, if you were to the post-it note, I love that idea. I have one in my car. I just keep a post-it and I refresh it every 3 months. It's just a post-it note reminding yourself of where you are. So something like try something new. Don't be afraid. Like if you put one in your agenda, I think they still have agendas. I'm so sorry, guys, if I can't remember. If you put one in your agenda or even on your phone, you just a reminder of, yeah, you know what, today I'm going to try something new. It's a way for you to just take a look at what programs are out there within your school, within your community that you can take a shot at. Anthony, would you like me to repeat the
Nope, that's
question there?
it.
No?
I'm gonna
Okay.
just run right off of what Kezna was saying, and it's trying new things. I always say, um, to high school kids, especially, and even younger than that, elementary school kids, it doesn't matter where you grew up, where your parents are from, what your friends say, try new things. Because growing up, I was a wild child, an extreme athlete, and I tried everything. So I went skiing, I did all this stuff. And my friends would always chirp me, like, "Oh, you're black, you can't go and do that." And I'm like, I don't understand how that computes, right? Like, it's if you want to do something, go and do it. That's what I will say, right? Try new things. There's a whole world out there to explore. And even like you said, um, with your trombone, scholarships, music to the States, and jobs like it, there's so many opportunities available to you out there. And I think what I would say to my high school self is settle down. I think I was a lot different than everybody else on the call. And I was, like I said, a wild child, and I took a lot of things for granted, and I didn't really utilize those resources and the people that I had around me that were there to support me and wanted me to do well. And I just, like I said, took it for granted. So I ended up getting kicked out of high school and having to get my diploma from an alternative school. And it was just kind of one of these things where it was like, I wish somebody would have just shook me back then and said, "You're gonna throw it all away," which I did. But with that being said, if none of that happened, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I don't think I'd change it because I've accomplished so much. I've been able to meet some amazing people, and I'm just getting going. So super excited for the future and what's to come.
Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned something that's so important though, and I just want to touch base on it. There's nothing you can't try, no matter what your culture is. I'm a Jamaican descent. My parents were born in Jamaica and migrated over to Canada, and I have an uncle who introduced me to golf. And at first, I would not think that I would be even close to any good as a golfer. But I have my own set and I go every season and I try. I'm not great. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm Tiger Woods. I will never say that. But every season I go out and I try and I try and I try and I enjoy it. And it's become something that now I've grouped a bunch of women where we all go every season and we try to do our best. We do our best. But it's just important to understand that going through the process even now as a teenager, if you were to ask me as a teen, would I have tried those things? Probably not. But I realized that had I done some of these things when I was younger, it would probably, as you said, Anthony, open up more doors for me. So don't ever be afraid to try new activities and build your own community. Like I said, now I have a group of women where we go play golf from time to time. There's not a massive group of us, but we always look forward to it every season. And it's a way to connect, and we're still trying to build it. And we're all just trying, and it's fun, and it opens up more doors. So never be afraid of trying new things, especially in this day and age. There's even more programs that you can open up to. Google is your friend. You just in your community, they probably list them and you probably are not paying attention, but they are there. They are there, and take a look at something that you can try and you never know you could become exceptionally good at. It could open up even more doors and also link you to your purpose, as we say that as well. Rose, I'll swing it over to you.
I was ready. I was like, wait, I'm last. A couple things. I started high school actually. I grew up as a tomboy. I have an older brother, and I had like bottle cap glasses, like to the point where I could kill ants if there was a sunny day. Like just like it was thick. And unlike now, where kids and youth are lucky if you need braces because it's pretty invisible, mine were not by any means. And it was actually a neck gear. I had to wear a neck gear. So it was like a piece of metal that would come out, pull my teeth back with bottle cap glasses. I'm wearing my brother's hand-me-downs. And for some reason, my mom decided that I needed to wear a big bow clip to school. I didn't really have much of a chance. I didn't think. Um, but the one thing I learned was, despite I couldn't change, the way I look because I needed glasses, I needed braces, was I learned to focus on what was a strength of mine, which was my sense of humor. And I realized, stop trying to focus so much on what people might want to see. And I just learned that, by just focusing on my sense of humor, people suddenly were drawn to me. Right. And I found that, when I was a kid, and I talked at a conference that might be on YouTube right now too, where people used to come to me like, hey, what's wrong with your face? And, being defensive, I'll be like, nothing, what's wrong with yours? And of course, that was not the way to make friends. But then what I realized when I learned to accept, this is what it is. At this time, I need glasses, I need braces. I use my sense of humor. I realized that when people actually brought it up, they're like, hey, what's wrong with your face? I'm like, oh, I just have bad eyes. And my mom, for some reason, wants my smile to be even better. It no longer felt like someone was like kind of like picking at a wound. Like I learned to accept myself, kind of like a little bit of a theme. I think with the voice, what I would really emphasize is there's not just one. Who you are as a student, who you are maybe as an artist, who you are as a daughter, son, brother, sister. Like we wear many, many hats. So don't feel like you have to always find one voice. There might be certain areas where a voice might be easier for you, right? As an athlete, right? As an advocate. So start with that. Start with that. Use that voice, and over time, the other ones will chime in, right? You're gonna find your northern star. And I think that's the biggest take home I will tell everyone is don't pressure yourself to find that one voice. There's so many. You have so many. Start with the one that you feel can speak the loudest, and over time, the other ones will chime in.
Thank you, Rose. And I too had to wear braces and have glasses at the same time. Not the headgear, not the headgear, but I too had to wear the braces pretty much all through high school for the full 4 years, from grade 9 all the way to grade 12. But guess what? My teeth are looking quite lovely, and so is yours. So we're good. It's all good. But I still can't see. But that's okay. That's totally fine. Um, Moving on to our next question there. How important has community been in helping you find your voice? How did you build or find that community? And how can we use our voice to build for others? I'll go ahead and go first. I was a part of an after school program back when I was a young kid, and it created so many great friendships to, believe it or not, that I still talk to and communicate with today. And we all help each other in our own little ways. Luckily, we're all the same age for the most part. So we all know what it's like to be around the 30 something mark. Um, and how we've all given back is by being part of the community, having the same programs and giving back to them, whether we are, for myself, I do workshop with the exact same community that gave so much to me, and other counterparts that I still contact with, and we were all part of the same after school program. They work within them doing dinners, suppers, and other like breakfast and other workshops and things to within the community. So it's almost like you withdraw when maybe you're a teenager or in middle school, and then you get to deposit as you become an adult. You give back to the same community that gave to you, and it gave me a massive voice of someone who's 5'1". I'm very short, and it made me realize that I could actually be 6 feet tall if I wanted to be, and then my voice matters in the community that I'm in. So I'll start with that, and I'm gonna go over to Anthony. I'll ask you. Um, how important has community been in helping you find your voice? How did you build or find that community? And how can we use our voice to build community for others?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, like community is everything. Community is huge, and because I became a paraplegic and became part of the disabled community, I think that's really and truly how I found my voice. I started speaking as soon as I got injured. Like literally in the hospital, I was speaking from my bed. And it just, I guess, snowballed now to the point where I have an organization, and the purpose of it is to help others with disabilities get out and lead an active, healthy lifestyle through recreation, technology, and mobility devices. So it's again now creating a new network of people that want to get out and whether it's race a car or all sorts of different things, or if it's just take pictures. I want to be able to help people get out there and find their thing that they love to do and just fit in society regularly without having extra costs associated because disability is extremely expensive. Most people don't know or understand, but it's very, very tough to get out and just live. So that's kind of like where my community is going and what I'm doing. And like I said, I couldn't feel more blessed with where I'm at and how I'm able to help now. So
Awesome. Kezna, I'll just repeat it just in case, or are you good?
I'm okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that communities can help you find your voice just by aligning yourself with people that share similar values. I think that when you're surrounded by people who you're alike, there's some sort of like understanding, and so you're in spaces that you feel safe in, that you're allowed to express yourself freely, while not necessarily being allowed, well, saying whatever you want or doing whatever you want, but also to be around people who will kind of like will listen to you, will share some same values, and will care as well, to kind of like have these discussions that can sometimes not necessarily be easy to have, or if you're hesitating on like something about your life, you can discuss with them as well. So I feel like that all these things kind of feed your voice in a sense. And I also think that we can use our voice to create community for others by kind of realizing that we're all not all the same. We don't all have the same needs. So if someone is having difficulties with something, you can kind of step up if you're like not having these difficulties with these things. So you can kind of like take space and kind of just all help each other in that way.
Thank you. And Divya, I'm gonna swing it over to you.
I think community is so important and truly, truly thankful for like all the communities that I kind of had and fostered. Initially at first, I remember just as I transitioned from high school into my undergrad, it was finding different communities that I really resonated with. So kind of what Kesna was saying with finding people with very similar values. I know that I didn't really have like a strong South Asian network, like during like my elementary days, and I really craved that going into my post-secondary. So one of the first few things I did was like, okay, where is the Indian Students Association? Like, where is the clubs where I can find very like-minded people where I could share, my culture and some of its values with. And then I really wanted to like shift in different ways. I'm like, okay, now I want to start exploring the environmental sector. Where can I find the environmental student club? And, get more involved there and met more like-minded people who were going to pursue careers in the environment and tried to kind of find my different communities with very things that were really important. And I did that kind of in silos in my undergraduate degree, but then after I graduated, I was like, there are very layered. It's back to the cake. It's very layered. Not necessarily being a part of the environment can be very different than being part of student council. That could be very different than being a part of the Indian Students Association. And you then realize that there is a need for a community in those small sections where everything's kind of layering all together. And that's where I think some of the gaps are. And that's where I think creating a community becomes really important. So, something that I did later on is I'm really passionate about outdoor recreation and something that I've done really growing up. But it's always been something that's been like a side hustle for me. It's been on the side as I like pursue like my school going forward. But then I realized that people who are outside also care about the environment, care about the nature that they're playing in. They also care to be with people who make themselves safe. So then I created a community of women who are Black, Indigenous women of color, to be able to play outside in nature safely. So created a little trip where we went from Toronto to Quebec, some small town off Montreal, where I was able to get the girls to, try things that they never tried before. Try doing archery, try rock climbing, try swimming and kayaking, and all these activities that they craved to do but couldn't find the safe space to do it, couldn't find the financial means to do it, couldn't find, the community to do it. And being able to foster that community in the layerings of my life was able to really prove something that was needed but wasn't being addressed. And I think finding the layers and the gaps are really perfect opportunities to create community themselves as well.
Love that. I love that you brought in the thought process of the cake of how it's so layered. Um, Also, I like cake, but the thought process of the cake is so important because as a person who's had friendships from junior kindergarten to now adulthood, I keep those people in my circle, but I also have people who are connected to the business mindset of how my business runs, and I keep those people around. And I also have the community of those where I can go golfing, and then I also join other communities of book clubs, and they all play a massive role into maintaining myself, giving my voice and take care of me. So it's just not one directional. It's very much you're allowed that very seven layered cake of life in a way. Yes, I'm using the cake analogy, but I'm just thinking of a way of like of a cake of how many layers it is, and every time that you're trying to fill a gap, you're trying to find a filling to put in between to make your life feel sweet and taste sweet and enjoy it at the same time. Rose, I'm not sure if you want cake, but I kind of wanted it, but continue and
Well,
answer the
I'm
question.
here in Vancouver, BC, so technically it's my lunchtime. So yes,
Oh,
I'm very
yes.
hungry.
So you would want the cake.
But Coach AJ, I was just smiling a lot because you made a comment about being in your 30s, like just being in your 30s, everything, and I'm like, girl, that was me about 15 years ago. I'm like hitting my mid 40s soon, so I was just like, that must be so nice. I'm embracing my old lady self at this point. Take it as a compliment, right? How important is community and finding your voice? Extremely important for sure. I think just finding a place you belong, that was the biggest thing when I was working with youth. Like they always like, oh, thank you for believing in me. And I said, you know what? You guys helped me believe in me. I'm like, when I don't always know where we're going, but I promise you that no matter where I'll go, I'll take you with me so that we're always going to be together. If we're lost together, right? And if we find something great, don't run off and leave me by myself, but we'll figure it out. And I find that just finding a place where you belong. And the one thing that was so empowering was I had this youth council, and I remember to this day, and I think the audience, the guys there too, it was the original four. There's only four of us. So it was a youth council. We're like, okay, number one goal, we need more people because two was staff and two were just brothers. And I was like, okay, meeting adjourned. And then within a year, because what we did was we just always accepted people for who they are. Like one person might be nerdy, but they're amazing artists. I'm like, oh, you need something drawn? Ask that guy. I'm like, did you know that quiet guy in the corner? He's actually a magician. Like, go ask him for the festival. Like, and we just learned to joke with each other. And honestly, within a year and a half, it was so insane. People had to stand because we ran out of space. We couldn't even sit in a circle. It was like 60 people. My boss came in and told me it was a fire hazard. And I'm like, you wouldn't tell the teenagers? I'm like, you want to tell a bunch of angry teenagers that they can't stay here? Good luck to you, man. So it was like so amazing where people started being able to just like, you know what? I'm nerdy. So what? I'm a magician. And like just being able to just accept yourself. And then by doing that, you learn to accept other people. And then that's how community is, right? Not everyone trying to be the same person. It's like, hey, like a bunch of different people being embraced. And that's what we call unconditional acceptance, right? Unconditionally accepting the people around you, being able to, but it starts with what everyone said, Terry, it starts with yourself, right? If you're fighting with who you are and you're not allowing yourself to just discover who you are, you're not going to be able to do the same about people around you. So how do we use our voice? I like to call it pay it forward, right? So one of the reasons when I was emailed about being a panelist, I said yes right away. Because what I always tell the youth, I'm like, pay it forward. They were like, Rose, how do I thank you for giving me a job as a summer day camp leader? Don't lose a kid, first of all, keep them alive, and then pay it forward. I'm like, when you get a chance, thank me. If you ever make it in a place where you can give the same opportunity to a youth, give it to anyone else, do it. That's how you thank me. And that's what I truly believe in to this day. Like even with the RCMP in the military, I'm like, pay it forward. Help out the other people because it will come back to other people.
Heavy on the pay it forward. That is something that is it's important. And I like I said earlier I was part of an after school program and now being able to host workshops within that same community, it's like a full circle. Even doing this Future ACES event is a full circle moment. They gave so much to me in a couple assemblies while I was in middle school. And so to give back to the kids that are coming up behind me, that it's like a full circle moment in its own way. So I do have one question. I'm going to start with you, Rose, here. Um, on the Future Aces Creed, and I'll read it out because I still have mine here. Um, which creed speaks the most to you and why? So A is for attitude, C is for cooperate, we have E for educate, and then we have S for service. So out of all of them, which one speaks to you and why?
Ooh, that's tricky. That's almost all of them, eh? Um, I would say cooperate because you cannot lead if there's no one that follows. Like, or you can't do much just on your own. You can still start the momentum. And I'm improvising at this point. You can start the momentum, but it doesn't work it doesn't, there's no impact, right? So if you're doing something by yourself and then there's like no one around, you can keep trying, but there's always power in numbers, right? And so I would say for me, it's to cooperate, and the attitude does make a difference, right? But the attitude can change too based on your day. And it's okay to have, as we talked about, sitting down. Like if you have a bad day, sit down. That's okay, right? When you have a good day, stand up. Get your game on. Sometimes in the morning with my kids, especially when it's just like a headache trying to get them out the door. My daughter's starting high school and becoming a teenager soon. Like sometimes I just say, like, guys, let's get ready to rock on, and they're like, "Okay, mommy, please don't say that out loud when you're dropping me off at school." And I'm like, all right, I love you too. But just the attitude and cooperate, and like I said before, just not being afraid to embrace yourself as you are ever changing.
Love that. Love that. Kezna, which one of the creed speaks to you the most?
Although they all speak to me, I would say attitude. I think it's so important. And I think that um, how you feel towards whatever you're approaching is so important, and that you kind of have to be honest with yourself, but also with whoever you're engaging with, whether it's a friend or someone you're just meeting for the first time. I think that's something that's kind of underestimated is honesty and communication when it comes to attitude as well. I think it's impossible to constantly be in the same mood, constantly be like super happy, but I think that if you're able to communicate like before starting any discussion or whatever you're about to start, if it's with yourself, okay, today I feel this certain way, so it'll affect what I'm about to do. If it's with someone, like, hey, today I feel a little sleepier or a little distracted, I feel like it can totally change the directory of whatever is about to happen. So I think attitude is super important for me, and it's what speaks to me most. And also just being aware and taking your time to listen to your attitude and how you're feeling, and also to the people around you.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh, Michael has done us a solid. He added in the creed just in case you want to take a look in the chat. Thank you, Michael, for doing that. So you could actually just whatever word speaks out to you the most within the creed. Um, Divya, you go ahead, and then Anthony, you could follow, and then I'll go last.
Just I honestly have been thinking about this for like the last few days because I'm like they're all so important and they all work at different times, I think, when you're like doing different things. But I think if you're thinking about like which one resonates with me the most, I would definitely say a lot of them, but empathy and service I think go really hand in hand. In a sense that I just really grew up understanding like where I come from, my culture, the different disparities and inequities that exist, and trying to like work to trump them in a way, and like, work around to, try to make the world a better place. And I've worked in community centers, and especially in the student field. I was part of 40 different clubs at some point, and just giving back to the students who are all just trying to get by, all just trying to find their own paths, and in the process, like, make friends have just been so rewarding. And especially, like I was saying, fighting to create that community where community is so needed and it can't be easily identifiable, and providing that service where people can combat that, I think is just immensely powerful. I'm a very social butterfly. I'm very people. And when I'm able to make someone smile on the other side, I think that could honestly, that small little gesture of your like cheeks going up can honestly like flip my day upside down and make it so much better. So I think service could be interpreted in so many different ways, and being empathetic and understanding at the same time while doing that, I think is just so important and really resonates with everything I try to do.
Love it. Love it. Anthony.
Yeah, it's a difficult one for sure. So I'm just gonna run through them. I think your attitude determines your altitude, and you have the ability to take action and achieve whatever you need to, but you got to educate yourself and then become empathetic, like Divya said, because I firmly believe we're all here on this earth to help each other, really and truly. Like it's one of those things, and with our current climate and all, like we need to really hone in on being a human being and accepting each other and just moving forward together collectively so we can make this world a better place, really and truly. But I think the creed is the creed for a reason, right? Like I think what Divya said, there's so many things that touch your life on a different level and a different time in every way. So it's also important. And but yeah, I think for me, definitely your attitude determines your altitude, and that's been the one thing for me. Even when I don't want to, sometimes I know you just got to get it done, and it's why I'm here today. So it's thank you so much.
Thank you. It's also difficult for me. So I'm just going to say at this moment, because I think that fluctuates as we move and flow through life, which is kind of like you said, it's this creed, it speaks to so many aspects and chapters in your life. It could change. So I would have to say at this moment, I'm connecting more with Divya said, which is empathy and service. Those two are so important to me. Giving empathy to others, showing empathy. I'm a very empathetic person. Um, so that really connects with me. In service, I would have to just say I agree with what Anthony really touched base on there with being of service to others. As a coach, a mentor, speaker, workshop facilitator, a daughter, partner, all those titles I carry, and many of us carry, I realize that I thrive off of the energy of being of service to others. And it makes not it's not a matter of a feeling, it just makes my life worthwhile to give others back something that's been given to me of just existing. So it links also to kind of the purpose question we had earlier. Being of service to others is part of my purpose, being here on this earth. And it's interesting. I still have this creed till this day because as I look at it now, it's yeah, I've gone through chapters, and I think that if you're watching this and you're wondering, okay, I identify with this, that you could identify that with right now, but it can fluctuate and change of how you can identify with the other parts of the creed and how important it could be a staple. Like this could be a massive foundation for yourself as you go into it, as you're still in high school or elementary, and as you push through into post-secondary and other parts of your life. So it's always good to revert back to this lovely, lovely creed here. So now we're gonna go ahead and open up for questions. If you have any questions in the audience, those who are participating in here, we are open. We're totally open to answer questions, and we're happy to do it. It's your chance to ask the panelists anything on your mind about leadership, life, finding your voice, or even just how to deal with your day-to-day challenges of being a student. So you could go ahead and type it in the chat, and then I could just read them out and go ahead and answer any questions you may have.
I want to know if I can join Divya's organization. Right? I
Divya,
want to go shoot some archery and go rock climbing. I haven't done all that stuff in a long time.
I'll
not
shoot you a
gonna
message after.
All right.
not gonna lie to you, archery kind of scares me. I did it in high school, and I thought I was gonna slice my finger off. So for those of you that are gonna do it, hey, by all means, it's a great thing though. It's fun. I did it. I think in high school, yeah, and it was so much fun. It, I agree. If they still have it, I'm not sure if they have it in programs in high school, but if they do, sign up for it. It's actually fun. So Michael just said, yeah, you could type your question into the Q&A at the bottom. We'll open it up for a little bit, and we'll go ahead and answer any questions that you may have. Rose, you have a
Fig-
question.
Figured, well, not a question, but I figured since we're probably waiting for questions to come in,
Hmm.
one thing that I do in my job a lot is just kind of teaching a lot about interpersonal effectiveness. How do we deal with other pesky humans, especially when we're trying to work with them, and then
Yep.
and just dealing with them. And while we're waiting for, I just want to share, which was I think a very important lesson that we don't necessarily think about when it comes to communication, like finding our
Mm.
voice. I'm gonna do a quick story. I remember my daughter, she was 8 at the time, and she was telling me in the backseat as I'm just trying to race her to school to drop her off. She's like, mommy, my teacher just called my best friend bossy. And she got really mad. And I just said, well, and I know the best friend, I'm like, she is bossy. Like, I'm not gonna lie about that. She's bossy, one bossy kid, but I'm not gonna say that out loud when I'm driving. And I just said, oh, okay. And how did she react? And then she was like, oh, she got really mad at the teacher. And then I'm like, well, she goes, but mommy, she is bossy. Should I tell her? Should I tell her? So there, a lot of times we're in use, like, should we tell people things? Do we have this emotionally charged conversation? Should I have it? Should I not have it? So I remember at that time I was driving and I looked at my daughter. I just said, okay, well, um, you're going to learn one very important lesson in life. I'm like, when you grow up, even right now, you're going to learn that it doesn't really matter what you have to say, that it's not that important. I'm like, the most important thing before you say something is looking at whether the person is in the place to listen.
Yeah.
So I told her, I'm like, so if you were to tell the person she's bossy, how would she react? And she goes, oh, she's gonna stop playing with me at recess and I'm gonna be playing by myself. And I'm like, yeah, so maybe this is not the time. But you could still use your voice. Find someone that you know will listen, right? So the art of being with human to human interaction, it's not about what you have to say. You gotta find someone that's gonna listen.
Thank you
That's just my
for
buying
no,
time as we're
no.
waiting for
I
for
love the
questions.
no, no, I love the fact that you mentioned that because there is those out there that are willing to hear you. You just have to you do have to speak up, and that's kind of like when I asked a question regarding speaking to our younger self. I didn't think that I could speak up being a teenager, and then I realized that it's my responsibility to actually speak up. So in the kind of, I'm bringing in the Jamaican culture here, but part of what my mom would say would talk up, like use your voice. You don't have to diminish your voice, use it, like talk up. And I use that even with clients sometimes when I say like, hey, talk up. Like it's okay to speak. It's okay to voice your upset but and also what you can do is, and I like you mentioned this, is ask them, do you have space for me to speak with you at this moment? I have
Yeah.
something that I just would like to get off my chest. Do you have space? Are you in this position to hear me out
Yeah.
for a moment? And that helps a great deal. Anthony, go ahead.
I had a question for Rose, and I don't exactly know where I was going with it, but it's along the lines of just coping with things and life that happens from like more of a mental health perspective side of things. Like I kind of plow through everything, and sometimes I take the time to really think about my mental health at times, especially more so as of late. But I guess there's just my question is there simple things that teens or anybody can do really and truly that can help them get through tough or difficult situations, like tangible things? Like, can we go on a website and see like tips and tricks, like you were saying, like to breathe or whatever it is, things like that? So, like, if you're feeling stressed or anxious, are there resources where we can go besides like CAMH and find things to do to help us get through these situations?
That's a very good question because I am in Vancouver, BC here, so I'm not too sure as familiar with what's in Ontario, but for Cam H is definitely one of them. I think I can. It might take some brainstorming, so I might look online afterwards and see what I can find, and maybe I could send it to Michael or the creator, and then pass it along. I think some of the. Sorry, I think your question is just like what kind of handy resources were
Yeah.
there. Probably Cam H or yeah, I'm gonna have to look up on that one because I'm not familiar with what's in Ontario. I'm much more familiar with what's in BC, but that will be my homework.
Okay.
That would be my homework. I think one thing is don't underestimate mindfulness. I
Okay.
used to hate that word. When I heard the word mindfulness, I would literally almost throw up because it seemed like such a trend, but really it's don't underestimate the ability to actually bring your mind back to where it is because we don't have always the ability in the world that we live in. Everything's go, 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 go. And your brain, one little tip I can tell people is your brain is smart, but it's not that smart. So what happens is the moment that you're thinking of something, your whole body and your brain will react as if it's happening right now. That's why nightmares has its power,
Okay.
right? When you wake up, you can't tell if it's like, was that real or not? So when you're worrying, when you're trying to fall asleep, when you just had an angry conversation with someone you care about, the reason why you're having trouble staying focused is because they're thinking about it and your brain's trying to your brain's reacting as if it's happening over and over again. So for many people who struggle with mental health and you're like, why am I so tired? Nothing's happened, is because you lived up your worst nightmare over and over again and your body's constantly trying to adapt and adapt and adapt. So that could be one number one of for teenagers like why am I so tired? So looking up little strategies of mindfulness, like something as simple as like I pick one, which is picking a color like blue, and then looking around the room and just labeling like blue clock. What else can you find that's blue? Blue chair. That actually is a very applicable mindfulness practice. Can be
Okay.
done in 3 minutes, something like that. Hopefully, I'll look it up. I'll see what I can find,
Well,
Anthony.
no, that was that like that's great. And that like I can see in certain aspects of my life and like certain people where that is happening. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so I I was in a head-on collision in December. And so the PTSD is there and the worry of cars oncoming when I'm driving and stuff. Like I find myself just super tired at the end of the day. I'm like, I didn't do anything. I just drove and came back home and I'm tired, but so it makes sense.
Because your brain's adapting.
Yeah.
And for anyone that's ever had a concussion, head trauma completely disrupts your ability to control emotions.
Okay.
So it completely can make your emotional center of your brain a little wonky. So you might be watching like a comedy show and then like suddenly you're crying because it's the emotional center of your brain. And it's kind of like it needs to be recalibrated after any head trauma.
Very
We
interesting.
we have a couple of questions here that I
Sure.
just want to go through. So we have one question. As a teenager, who did you find you could lean on when times were tough? I'm gonna go first, but oh no, Divya, you go first. No, you go first. Go go go. Oh, you gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Sorry, I don't even know what I just pressed. But I was gonna say you could go first. But I think for me, it's very similar to like what Rose was saying. How, when you came here, you didn't find like you had a lot of family. And I think very similarly, like a lot of my family is in South Asia. So, and I am an only child. So for me, like my friends were really the people who I was able to kind of form like the sibling bond with, or like form someone that I had, someone my age that I can connect with when it came to matters that I don't feel comfortable, whether maybe approaching adults about it, or maybe I just wanted to rant on a friend to friend level. So I think my friends have really become the people who I really lean on to like rant, or, if I need to say something or if I'm feeling stressed, even like right before this, I'm like, this is happening in like 5 minutes. Like, what do I do? My friend's like, take some breaths. You got this. And I'm like, great, thanks. I needed that. So even just like knowing that I could rely on my friends to like have like the quick little moments where they accept me, hear what I'm saying, and give quick little tips here and there from their busy lives, I think really helps. And they've been the people who I've been able to kind of comfort myself around from from my school days when I started talking and doing things and making friends along the way that's transitioned into different realms of my life. But according to where I'm at, who I'm talking to, who I can trust, having that little conversation, knowing that I have someone there is always super helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. Kezna, we'll swing it over to you.
I would say for me personally, it's my mom. I think when I was a teenager, I was really going through stuff and I was like, I can't tell my mom this. No way, no way. But then, well, that was around 14. But when I turned 16 and like you have like more life experience, you're like, actually, I can talk to my mom. And I think that sometimes we underestimate our parents and that they were young as well at one point and also like how forgiving they can be. So I think it's okay to like vent to them. And for me, like I really developed a bond with my mom like that. But when I was younger, I would go to my friends for sure as well. I think it's nice to have like little renting sessions with your friends. But I do understand that sometimes people can't have that bond with their parents or don't necessarily have close friends. And something I would do sometimes is just get a piece of paper, pen, and you just write whatever you're feeling. And nobody has to read it but you. And you can even like do whatever you want with that piece of paper after you just you can tear it, you can like put it in water, whatever you want, but at least these feelings are not in your head anymore. And I think it's really important. All of the options are good. Whatever makes you feel safe and whatever gets you out of your head.
Thank you. I love the fact that you mentioned writing it out. Oftentimes, even with my own clients, I suggest write it out, record it out, video, like you could do video recording or audio recording just to kind of get it out of your system. Sometimes I use the option on I mean, we all have cell phones on the notepad. You could do talk to speech. It's just as long as you kind of get it out of your system. Sometimes when something is bothering you so much, when you hear it or read it back, you're like, oh, you know. Maybe that's not as a big of a deal as I thought. And I'm glad I got it out. I feel so much lighter. I feel so much better. Kind of going back to the conversation that Anthony and Rose are having, it's when you actually address it with certain steps, it actually helps a lot more versus you suppressing it and holding on to it for dear life. Just releasing it is the most flowing and best thing you could ever do. I personally did not like the word mindfulness until I started practicing it. And I didn't think meditation or journaling would really help until I realized it does. Just kind of getting it out of your system. Rose, you have a question there. Go ahead.
I didn't have a question, but I just, if I had to leave one nugget of wisdom, like for everybody in the future, well, I kept an eye on the time. I
Yeah.
just, I know. So one nugget I actually do really want to share is, I think especially when you're a youth, you're growing up, there's so many, stereotypes against teenagers and youth. One thing like that I actually teach my kids, I remember my son, he was really scared about needle shots. And I just said, well, okay, well, there's a difference between being brave and finding your inner courage. And he was like, okay, mommy, I'm just gonna do it. I'm like, whoa, whoa, stop channeling your inner Nike. Like, hold on there, kid. I'm like, do you know what courage is? And he goes, yeah, you just go, like, just do it. And I'm like, actually, courage is no matter, despite how afraid you are, that you still try. And that's like the nugget that I would put for everyone out there. You know what? It's okay to be afraid. Like everyone's afraid because nobody knows what's going to happen. No one knows the outcome. But the nugget I want for everybody out there is is to embrace your inner courage. Find that voice. If you can't find your own inner courage, find it from other people and use it from each other to empower each other. So learn and embrace to find your inner courage. That's my nugget for everybody out there.
Okay, Anthony, go ahead because we got to wrap up in a bit. So I'm going to swing it over to you.
I just saw a question here from Jay Ban, and it said, how can I alter my inner voice to continue to help me to strive for greatness while being more positive? It sounds like you've done really well at your job and with your academics, but I think you just need to listen to more positive things or read more positive things because you're already where you need to be. But I mean, that voice has kind of got you there too. We have to be our biggest critic sometimes, right? Because sometimes there's nobody there to really push us and get us to where we need to go. So, I mean, it's good. I have that issue sometimes too, but I've learned to give myself some grace and be nice and more positive just because it helps, right? And I think that's what I'd say to that.
Kind of touching based on what you said there, Anthony, is and what kind of came to my head is something I always say to myself is, you know, you have to give yourself more grace because you're doing it. And you're doing it. So if you're already doing it, you're taking the leap of faith and you're I know I'm sometimes in my head too. Sometimes want things to be so a certain way, and if it's not, we're not too happy with it. But if we kind of get out of our head and we take a scope of everything we have accomplishment, it sounds like you've probably done so, as Anthony said, you've made it this far. That means you're doing well. You're doing it. And you're probably exceptionally well at what you're doing. Just push more of the positive aspect of the things that you have accomplished, celebrate them, and what have you learned from that so that you could push even further. Rose, go ahead there.
So sorry, just the mental health aspect to that
Go ahead.
question. Um, it's one, I would suggest look at the voice. Whose voice is it? Because as kids, we embrace what we hear, how we should be doing things, how to show that we reach certain goals, especially for me in the Asian culture. It's kind of like you got 99 on math. Where was that one mark? Like, how come you didn't get 100? So one, whose voice is this? Learning to be able to detract, like, hey, whose voice is this? The second one is what is sustainable, right? So for riding a horse, we're always trying to go faster. I always use this analogy with my patients. Like when we're riding a horse, we want it to go faster, we gently nudge it and it'll go faster. But we never, as human beings, we're always in a rush to go everywhere. So every time it slows down, we're going to nudge it and we're going to keep going faster. But if the horse never gets a break, the horse never gets words of encouragement, it's going to get tired. And what happens is when you're nudging it, are you going to nudge it equally as gentle? Probably not. You're going to become more harsh, right? You're going to pull on it harder. You're going to use more negative words. And that's something that people, especially as youth, you need to recognize your inner critic because it's going to get more and more harsh as you get older because now we have more responsibilities, we have more stress, and you're not able to always meet the productivity level that you're trying to achieve. So one thing to think about is like, how do I want to ride this horse, this mental horse of mine, so that I can last? So that I would say is a mental health lens to that question.
Love that. Thank you, Rose. Appreciate that. We're going to go into another question, then we're going to wrap up. Many teens today may look online. I think this question I think is exceptionally important. Many teens today may look online today and have a negative outlook on the future. How can we combat this using the creed or our voices?
I think we need to keep having these conversations. We need to do a better job of having resources available for our teens, places for them to go and stay and hang out at school or resource centers after the fact, activities and less cuts and slashes to all these things because what are the alternatives now? There aren't that many jobs. Lots of things are going online. Um, we need to have resources available for our teams. We need to have activities, organizations that are doing the damn thing like Divya and getting people out into nature and in the environment to really show them what the world is all about. Because this thing right here is the worst. It's the downfall of our society, really and truly, because we are from the days when we didn't have it and we worried about curfew with streetlights. When the streetlights came on, it was time to be home. And so I think it's we just as leaders in the space, we have to really pour into our teens and our youth and make sure that they're okay because they're falling through the cracks now.
Yeah, these type of spaces do definitely matter.
Yep.
Divya, you have your hand up there. Go ahead.
I think just really quickly adding on to what Anthony was saying and kind of on the conversation that we've been having is finding that community. And I think sometimes when there's just so much negativity out there, you're not the only one feeling this way. And I think talking about it and talking about like how our future can be, I think we all often forget to do the reimagination, imagining what a positive future can look like, imagining life without the negatives. And if we could imagine together, talk about the negatives, but then turn it into a positive and talk about the imagination, I think it really helps us to create more of that positive mindset when it comes to tackling the future as well. And I'll kind of leave it on that note.
And I just want to just kind of end that question with you can't compare your life with someone's 30-second highlight reel. That is someone manufactured a bunch of clips, and you're thinking, man, I expired. But we have no idea what is real, how hard they had to work, the sacrifices that they make. We have no idea. Does someone's 30-second highlight reel? You're doing the groundwork. So just keep doing the work and focusing on yourself. As Auntie said, we come from the times where you had to be home by the time the lights got on. That was it. Like we didn't have cell phones or nothing like that. So if I can give anyone a tool is, and I know it's kind of hard for your generation, just put the phone away for a moment. Just for a moment. Even if it just means you put it in your bedroom and you're doing something else, you're having a conversation with your parents, a friend, whatever, in person, in person, but just put the phone away and don't pay attention to it. Just if you do it once a week, massive difference. Massive difference. All right. So as we wrap up, I want to thank every one of you, our speakers, the students, everyone behind the scenes for showing up, speaking up, and being open to growing. Dr. Herb Carney believed that each of us has a power to rise above challenges and become the best version of ourselves. So take what you heard today, the stories, the lessons, the energy, and carry it forward. Be the leader you needed when you were younger, and be the voice that builds you up. Be the voice that builds up someone else. Stay strong, stay grounded, stay true to future aces. Always have a big smile on your face and walk with nothing but strength.